everyone. I'm Abby, the relationship accountant. I help retail traders maximize their tax liabilities, and I teach traders how to trade under a business and set a social security number. So today's episode, we are going to discuss those expenses that traders can take, and are they ordinary expensive or are they necessary? But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Let's get started. So let's talk about expenses for traders, right? We did go over a couple of deductions that traders can actually deduct if they start trading under an entity. What is an ordinary expense? An ordinary expense is one that is common and accepted in your industry. So what that means is that, let's just say I'm a truck driver, right? And I own my own trucking company. What if the expense that I have is not related to a truck company? So it's not in my industry. Let's just say my expense is influencer expense or e-commerce expense. So in order for that expense to be ordinary, it needs to be accepted in your industry. So as a trader, you want to make sure that you are deducting expense that are related to trading, right? Okay, great. So what is necessary? Necessary expense is one that is helpful and appropriate for your trading or business. So even though an expense may be ordinary and necessary, you may not be able to deduct it. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. Like, I had a client that was an influencer, and that client purchased a $5,000 bag. Well, in the client videos, they usually have the bags with them. When they meet clients, they usually have that bag with them. It is extremely hard to prove to IRS that she is not going to be using that bag for personal use, if that makes sense. So even though a deduction can be ordinary and necessary, it doesn't always mean you can deduct it. So it's very important to make sure that not only is that expensive, ordinary and necessary, but you also want to make sure that you can actually deduct it. That's why it's important to actually sit with your accountant and go over the strategies, that are based on your industry. Like my traders, we sit down, we go over what strategies that's going to work for them, so they know specifically if that deduction can actually be deducted. So remember, even though an expense may be ordinary and necessary, you may not be allowed to deduct the expense in the year you paid or acquire it. In some cases, you may not even be allowed to take the deduction at all. So therefore, it's important to distinguish usually business expense from expense that are included. So let's go over a couple of examples. When we talk about ordinary expense for trader, what are those? Trading subscriptions, right? Like TradingView. Let's just say you pay $50 a month for TradingView, right? That would be considered ordinary expense. Trading workstation. You guys have some amazing trading workstation, by the way, okay? But your trading workstation can also be considered ordinary. Now understand, anything that is tangible, right? Personal property, like that workstation. If you spend more than $2,500 for that workstation, then you can actually depreciate the product, right? If it is $2,500 or less, you can actually deduct the full cost, okay? Now, your trading books, business meal that are about trading, right? Your cell phone bill, those can be considered ordinary expense. Now, let's go to necessary, right? What are the expenses that are necessary? I'm necessary, wouldn't you agree? So an accountant is a necessary expense. Legal fees for your trading business, trading mentorships, continuing education, trading under an S corp, health insurance, banking fees. Those are considered necessary expense. All right. Now let's talk about just a couple of expense that, they could be necessary, they could be ordinary, but you still can't deduct them, right? Like commission to your broker. You can't actually deduct those. Personal items, right? You can't deduct that. Like, I had a question where someone asked me, can I deduct my vehicle? Nope, you can't deduct your vehicle. All right. Mileage for traders. Well, you're not driving while trading. Remember, it needs to make sense. It has to make sense. So in order for it to make sense, this is what I tell my client. Ask yourself this question. Is the expense for me or is the expense for my business? If you can answer that question, usually you're staying out of red flags and audits from IRS. Okay? So we went over what is ordinary expense, what is necessary expense, what are those expense, what expense you can deduct, what expense you cannot deduct. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, don't forget, comment below, ask me them, and I will be happy to answer them for you. I'll see you guys soon.